You're watching the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. And we are recording. Hello, Bonnie Burd. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Just give me a second here. I need to turn on my timer here. Just because, I got to be proficient and be professional sometimes. But I'm super excited that you're back on the show, or you're on the show, I should say. We did the Hearts of Change Collective way back when. Was it last year we did that?
Yeah, it was last year. Yeah.
Last year, was it Jennifer? Who else is on that call? Do you remember Jennifer?
Jennifer and Kathleen Sherman and I.
Yes, Kathleen, loved her too as well. Yes, and I really enjoyed that. It was a fun conversation, and it's nice because it's very organic, just kind of like the podcast here. Mm-hmm. So, for all those who are listening, we're going to have a lot of fun in this show today. We're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about hypnosis. We're going to be talking about some channeling stuff, and we're going to go down the rabbit hole a little bit here.
Yeah, the question you asked me is, what is it that I do? I'm a wellness practitioner, and I work a lot with the Akashic Records and hypnotherapy, and also healing past lives, things that you repeat over and over in other lifetimes that you bring into this lifetime. And so I also do a lot of life coaching, and I'm a Reiki Master teacher, and I teach energy classes and light language, and a lot of other things.
Now, so light language, do you actually teach light language, or you just kind of communicate in light language, or use that part of your therapy?
That's part of my therapy. It comes through during the when we're in the quantum, whatever guide or angel comes forth and wants to communicate, or sometimes there's keys and codes. They call them keys and codes because within your DNA, you may have something that's ready to open. And so the sounds of the light language will help open up whatever it is that you're ready for.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I had another lady on the show, and we did a whole show on light language. And I always think it's the freakiest thing. I love it. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, this is so gibberish. This is so crazy. But then there was, like I said to her, it's like, there's something that resonates within your body, and they're speaking it. And I was like, okay, this is just weird, but it feels so cool at the same time. We had a great conversation about that. So, so one of the things, I was always curious about, because you use hypnosis in your sessions. And I want to just touch on just briefly a little bit about hypnosis. So is hypnosis just part of what you do with your clients?
Yeah, I use just the relaxation part of it. And I use a breathing technique that helps them relax and let go. And sort of like I use there's little exercises when people don't know if they can go under. You don't know whether you're left or right brain. So I use I'll tell them, if they say, I don't know if I could do it, I'll say, close your eyes, walk me down your driveway and into your house, and tell me what's all in your house. And if they could do that, I say, you can do that. You can go under trance, because you're using that muscle that when you're describing everything and you're actually feel like you're there, you're using that muscle that takes you where you need to be. And so I use a lot of those techniques just to get them where I need to help them. And then usually our guides and angels will come in, and we go wherever they need to go and do whatever they need to do in the healing process.
Okay. So what are some of the things people are coming to see you for? Like, I mean, there's healings at all different levels. Do you find that there's one thing that people are going, okay, I'm going to go see Bonnie. I got some junk going on here. Like, is there just a multitude of things, or is it like certain things that you're kind of like, you've been known for?
A lot of it's like heart release. Like, it's a lot of heart trauma, heart pain, not being able to let go, just a lot of phobias, a lot of things that are connected to your Akashic records, because they just can't seem to move forward. They can't forgiveness. A lot of it's forgiveness. Yahshua is one of my main guides, and he helps them with forgiveness a lot. So yeah, mostly like that.
Yeah. So I've seen that has come up when I was doing my readings a lot. A lot of that has come up lately. Are you finding this happening more because of there's this precipice of change, and people are, the vibration of the energy is changing in the universe, on the earth plane, everything else is changing. And so much of this needs to be healed that like forgiveness is like quintessentially, it's the best, but the hardest thing to do.
Absolutely. And it's not even, it's the forgiveness in this lifetime, but of course, I believe in other lifetimes because I work with the Akashic Records. It's other lifetimes where you haven't forgiven and you've done the same thing over and over karmically, to where you need to go to the actual seed of where it affected your lifetimes to begin with. You see it for what it is, you heal it, and everybody involved, and that energy brings you to the higher timeline, which releases all other energies in your timeline that's affected with. So it'll eventually come back to where you're at. So like every time you do one of those sessions, you're healing not only yourself, but all of your aspects, who's involved in that same act,
Okay.
that same karmic problem.
Okay. So a lot of times I've also heard that a lot of times you guys will reincarnate. So let's say let's take, parents, because we love our parents, right? We always, those are our primary choices of people who have caused pain in most people's lives, right? This is just an example. It could be a lot of things. And we incarnate with those particular parents because sometimes, a lot of times in a past life, we need to work through karmic issues. Now, part of that particular karmic issues, even friends, families, people you meet regularly through your life, coworkers, things like that, could always have a past life relationship, and you got to work through that. So in a sense, do you have to still go back in time to release that? Or because they're already in the present, is it easier to just work with the present and deal with that situation as is and try to heal that karmic wound there in this lifetime versus going back to the past? Does that make sense?
It works both ways.
It does?
It works both ways. Yep. So whichever way your spirit or your higher self decides that you need to see to understand, because it may be in this lifetime you don't understand why you're doing that over and over. You don't get what started it. So then it'll go to the past life and it'll heal it there. But if you do understand what's happening in this lifetime and you do get it from what happened and you're ready to release it and let it go, then it'll stay in this lifetime. It might be in your childhood. It might go right from the first time your parents said this to you, or you thought to yourself, I'm not worthy. And then you can release whichever timeline you do it in. It's in all directions. It's whatever it's connected to.
Okay.
It's all one energy.
Yeah. So it kind of gives it the idea of quantum physics, or the entanglement of the past, present, and future are all kind of working at the same time.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
all, there's no such thing as past, present, and future. It's all happening at the same time.
Yeah, that always just baffles me. It's like, how the hell can the past and all these things happen at the same time? I mean, the past is the past, but I guess they talk about timelines, right? I guess that's part of what they're saying, that the different types of timelines. So when you have a person come in and you're looking at doing a healing work with them, and you start doing the hypnosis. So basically the hypnosis is more of the relaxation technique to allow them to get into that subconscious mind to access that particular timeline.
Yep. To help them get to where they need to be in order to, I have special gifts that my guides tell me that helps hold space. I am a key code holder, and I can open doors and help them get where they need to be. That's within my DNA. And so if I can get them to relax and trust me, then it all flows easily. And the more that you are ascended, the higher your energy is, the easier it is to do these sessions. I used to be, when I first started doing them and my guides started teaching me different ways to do them, when I would get somebody who was really has done the work and they're really high energy and really have got all these different gifts themselves, I would be like, wow, what am I going to do to, I don't know how this is going to go. But what happens is my energy blends with their energy, And it's just absolutely amazing. It just blows your mind what you can do when the other person is advanced also. But then in the other direction, when you're helping somebody who's just opening up and they're just starting to release their pain and suffering, you have to be able to get them there in the first place. And that's when the hypnotherapy techniques come in. The people that have already gotten past that, you really just have to connect and go there. So it varies on the person, and you almost know immediately by just talking to them in 5 or 10 minutes which direction to go into and how you're going to help them get where they need to be.
Okay. So you talked about this, like the key holder and holding space there. Let's talk about that, because I'm not really familiar with that. I've heard the term holding space, but when did you know that this was part of your toolbox there? When did you just figure that out?
Because I do a lot of channeling, and I always thought it was normal that everybody talked to Jesus. I thought that that's what everybody did, because he's always been, since I was born, right there by my side. And when I channel, he gives me information, and he told me I was a key code holder, and that I didn't understand for the longest time until I started speaking the light language, because the light language is where the code comes in. And when I start speaking the light language, like they might get to a part where they can't get any further, they just can't see, or they feel stuck, or something's happening. And then I'll ask one of our guides to help me with some codes or keys that would help them open up more to where they can move forward. And the language just comes in. The language will just come in. And then after I do the language, usually they can start, they start getting the information and start saying, yes, I see this, or I feel this, or I sense this. And we move forward. But sometimes you can get people that are really, really wounded and really need to heal first. And they'll just take them to the healing rooms, to the healing chambers. And they do a lot of helping them with forgiveness and release and childhood trauma, stuff in those areas. And so they can't really go to a past life. So I always explain that in the beginning. Once you get healed and you release enough energy to where you can hold the energy to move through the quantum, then you'll be able to travel. But everybody can do it. You just have to do your shadow work to get there.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I have a client, it starts with shadow work before they can get where they need to be.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second for those who are listening, what it means to be doing shadow work.
Shadow work is it's all the filters and pain and trauma and suffering that you hold within inside. You hold it in your heart or somewhere within your body, because every incident that's upsetting or heartbreaking or gave you some sort of filter that's in a negative way, you hold that energy within your body, because you don't understand what to do with it. So you try to either push it away so you don't have to look at it or feel it. And so it's usually somewhere within your body. So when you start doing your shadow work, you start looking at what's happened to you. Usually it'll start in your childhood, and you'll start releasing things that happened to you that made you feel this way about yourself, that you're not worthy, or you're just not smart, you're not intelligent, or whatever it is that caused you to have this filter about yourself. You release that it's the same thing as when you go to another lifetime. You're looking at what caused it. You're looking at it above the situation, seeing both sides of it. Why did my parent do this? Understand why the parent came in that direction. And then in the end, understanding it, forgiving it, and letting it go. And just being able to breathe and release it. Just breathe and release. It's a lot to do with the breath, because when you allow it to leave, you have to move the energy somehow. So you breathe and release. And a lot of times it's really hard for them to do that. So we bring in Jesus or Yahshua to help them release and to see the whole story, why they can't let it go, and understand why they need to let it go.
Yeah, it's so important work. I mean, it is, like I always say, like I love I love the person who's willing to go into their shadow and heal that. Cause I think that's quintessentially what I'd say most humans have to do on this earth plane, is really to come in and heal that stuff for humanity to move forward. We really need to, clean our own room and make sure that the house is tidy. We got to get that going before we can take care of everything else. Cause we've just got a bunch of wounded people, which is mostly the situation. We got all these wounded people just trying to, manipulate and change and control the circumstances around them so they don't have to feel that way, right? And hence, like the woke movement, really, you got a bunch of wounded people, and you have a lot of people trying to project their stuff out, making sure they don't have to feel a particular way because of their wounds, but they're not willing to actually heal that wound. I think it's quintessentially the biggest thing, but I love that person who comes when I have a client and they're willing to go into that, and they're willing to go deep into that muck and to start really on their journey. I just like, man, I got you, my brother. I got you, my sister. You know what I mean? I love that shit.
Absolutely. I channeled it's almost a 4-page message from Yeshua about how our going within is that's what we're here to do, to go within, heal thyself. It's not about running around trying to heal others. When you heal thyself is when you're able to heal. When you heal yourself, we're all connected. So you're healing others by doing that. But if you do, but we are supposed to, we all are doing the work that we're doing, but that's because we've been there, we've done that, and we understand it. So now we can help somebody else. We put our hand out to help the next person do what they need to do. But after you heal what's going on in this lifetime is when you start healing the other lifetimes, other aspects. And that's when it all starts to pull together, when all your gifts start to open up.
Yeah. And it's amazing how much gifts are opening up. And when I started doing my shadow work, like I always said earlier, a lot of people who are listening to the show, I mean, I wasn't one of these people who was psychic as a kid and, all these different things. My gig started opening up later on because I had a lot of trauma in my youth, and that kind of shut me right down. It wasn't until I started doing my shadow work and started doing my internal work and going within and doing therapy and doing the whole 9 yards, everything. And that's when my gifts opened. And man, it just opened up the Pandora's box, and it's like, shit, hold on. Yeah. And it's so amazing. And it's like, there are times where I was like, fuck, if I have to go to another goddamn therapy session, I'm going to lose my mind. Like literally, there were days where I, honestly, there were some really dark shit days. Like, I mean, years, it wasn't days, but years. I had a lot of like really dark stuff, but eventually they started to lessen, and, I just kept pushing through. And, that was a kind of warrior aspect of myself. I just kept pushing through. But at the end of it, like, I mean, I got still a little bit I'm working on. I don't think we're ever finished. I don't know if you agree on that, but we still got our stuff, but
I agree.
Yeah. Do you ever have days where you're just like, God, really? I got to do more shadow work. That's what I always felt.
My gosh.
Yeah. It drives me nuts sometimes. Like, it's like,
I know.
I did like years and years and years of this shit and still got stuff coming up. Like, damn it.
I know. Well, the same things that I do with clients, they're doing with me at nighttime. Usually I'll wake up and there'll be like a lifetime that I'll go, oh, what was that? And they'll go, oh, just release it. It's something you need to release. And I'll breathe it through because it'd be really horrible. But you think you're done and then you're not.
It's just amazing. As I do more of this work, I'm realizing it's getting a little bit quicker. Like the layers are peeling off quicker than they used to. The layers used to kind of hold on a little bit longer. And I've been noticing had to do a lot of stuff. Like most of the memories were in this lifetime, and just things that all these weird, like I've been in meditation, and all of a sudden this person would show up in my meditation that I haven't thought of in 30 years. And I didn't really realize how traumatic the situation was until it kind of showed me, and how much I was holding on to that and how much pain that situation caused me. And I haven't thought about it in 30 years. Well, this is the prime example. It's just happening right now. And it's like, I can't believe I'm thinking about this person. This is crazy. Yeah. And all these memories and pain and emotion was coming up the surface. And I'm like bawling in the corner. I'm on the floor. I'm going, what the deal? My body's shaking. And it's like, I can't. And then, but the thing is, I've done enough work to realize, okay, this is just coming out. It's just a memory that's stored in that energy gets stuck in the body, which I've been holding on to for so
Yeah,
long. It's just coming to the surface, that's that whole vibration thing. But yeah, nutty.
I know it is nutty. And then after you do that good cry and you let it all go, you wonder why you held on to it so long, you know, and you could see it for what it really is after you've let it go, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just crazy. And you can't remember why you were that upset.
Yeah, that was some of the things because part of my analytical brain will kind of go, why the frick are you so upset about that? But then I realized there was a little bit more, I wouldn't allow myself, and there's so many little aspects to it, and a reason why, because I just could not at that time, I could just not allow people in and feel. And I realized that I had more stronger feelings for this, but I just closed it off and I couldn't allow anything in. And that kind of bothered me because that was kind of a theme throughout my life. I was just so closed off, just emotionally. That wall was up, the protector was in front of me, and that was it. It wasn't going to do anything. But yeah, are you finding you're doing more inner child work with people right now?
Yeah. Inner child work, and a lot of past lives, because it's always connected in some way, and a lot of heart trauma, uh, just things they just can't get past. Like they might be working on other things and released it, but there's just deep-seated things that they don't even see it. They only see it through their filter. They don't see it how the other people felt. And so when they're in session, they will take them and they will show them the side of everybody else's story so that they get why everybody was reacting the way they were acting. Because in the quantum, they have everybody's records and they can show why the people are doing what they're doing. And they see that it's like being above that and seeing why everybody was doing what they were doing. And then you think, wow, they had it hard too. Or, wow, I see why they were doing that. Maybe I was too hard on them. Or maybe they didn't mean to hurt me in the way that I thought they did because I made that story up in my head, you know? And so it just starts to unravel until they can give forgiveness. The key is forgiveness
Yeah.
and letting it go.
Yeah, that's quintessentially the thing. It's like that. Now you talk about Jesus and Yeshua. Is that the same person?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah. Well, see, people call him Jesus, but he calls himself Yahshua because that's his given name, and he says that it has less stigmatism to it. I was going to do a class for him, and I was going to. It was around Christmas time, and I was going to do Mary Magdalene and him because I also teach classes and channel. And I said, if I do around Christmas, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, is that going to be a lot of stigmatism? And he said, use my given name, Joshua. It
Okay.
has less stigmatism to it. So I just go back and forth.
Yeah, because it just because I have a lot of for a lot of people who are listening, because I have a lot of newbies that come to this to the program because they're looking for the information, right? So when you say I kind of have an idea who it was, but I just want to clarify. I've heard that term Yeshua. Obviously heard of Jesus. Being raised Roman Catholic, it was indoctrinated in my head.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah.
My dad was a preacher, so yeah.
No, was he really? What type of preacher was he? What?
He was a Nazarene.
A Nazarene. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. And
is that like a Baptist or, is it an offshoot of something? Like, what is it?
they just called it Church of the Nazarene.
Okay.
And he was also a member of the Church of Christ too, and they were very strict. But he was also in a gospel band, and he also did like the prisons and the Edgeable Slows, and he did music because music touches the heart and it's healing. So his ministry included the homeless and stuff like that. He was, he did everything that I do. We had some gifts that we shared, but we didn't call them the same things. He didn't. It was Holy Spirit. It was, and it was okay. He just said to me, are we going to end up in the same place? And I said, yep. And he said, you're absolutely sure? And I said, yeah. He says, I'm not going to worry about you then.
Yeah, because that would be really something hard. I mean, if you're in that very kind of, it's a very structured, I wouldn't say strict, but I'll say structured lifestyle where it's very much a day-to-day thing. It's a lifestyle, and it's the very disciplined lifestyle, that it sounds like when your parent is somebody who ministers and stuff like that. But it sounds like, he kind of came to terms with it, because that's really the nice thing about it. Because when you get that balance, there's not a lot of flexibility in that thinking. It's like, it's either here's the good book, and if it's not in the book, it doesn't matter. They're so hyper focused on the book and what it is. But it sounds like you guys had, an amicable working
Well, that was
relationship.
my dad in his 80s.
Oh, okay.
That was my dad in his 80s when he decided all that was, he didn't have to be so stern on everything. And he felt my heart. We didn't really talk about our differences when he was younger, because it was upsetting to him, because he always wanted you to hear his way. But yeah, in the end, it was okay.
Yeah. And I guess that's what really matters. It's always in the end, right? It just doesn't matter how you start out, it's how you finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's always interesting.
But he was a lot like me. He just called it different things. He just
Yeah.
had different words, different terms,
Yeah, exactly. The Holy Spirit is, enveloping.
I mean, he was a medium. He talked about seeing ghosts all the time and stuff. And so I'm the same way. So, when I was a kid, he told me when he was in his 80s, I said, why did you always tell me that they weren't there? And he goes, because I figured you'd quit being afraid and go to sleep. They weren't going to hurt you. And I said, Dad, you could have told me something so I wasn't afraid all the time. I'm under the blankets because I could always see him walking through the house.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks. You could have told me like that, as a scared, 8-year-old, just looking under the covers. But that's, that's funny. Did you notice that's, with your gifts of that, did you start at an early age? Obviously it sounds like it started at an early age.
I was born wide open, and I could talk to Jesus and channel right from the beginning. But a lot of my fears of my gifts started closing one by one, because I was afraid of the ghosts. Nobody would tell me or help me understand, because I am part of what I do is because part of being a key holder, you do talk people to the light, but I don't do it in a way like a medium does, where you sit down and talk to the person or the spirit right there. I usually do it. It's in my sleep. It's in the quantum. I know when they're there, because when I go to sleep, I can feel there's a bunch of them there. But I have woken up in between talking to them about the same thing I do in sessions about who their loved ones are and that they're waiting for them, and they need to not be afraid, and to just go with Yeshua. He'll help you. And it's just what I've always done. But when I was a child, I was so afraid of it because I didn't understand, because they would come and show me how they passed. I would see how they passed, and it was scary to me. And so that was just part of my gifts of being able to see, records and stuff like that. And so I asked for it to stop because I was so afraid of it. And my parents didn't really understand it, and they just thought if they told me they weren't there, it would go away. And so, everything kind of shut down. But when I was in about 18 is when they started coming back.
Yeah. It's usually when
it started coming.
Yeah, because that's through those high school years, right? Because you're so kind of, it's that really awkward, weird stage where a lot of people kind of shut down, because it's all about, all the hormones and things are moving and changing, and you're not really thinking about that. And the last thing you want to do is be different in high school, right? Those are,
oh yeah.
Yeah. You got to, you want to fit in, right? That's the whole kind of clique thing, right? So I know a lot of people usually shut down their gifts usually during those high school periods, right? Like, and then after high school, when you get out of that environment, and then that's when spirit kind of starts knocking on your door. Oh, do you remember those last 4 years you had off? We're just kind of revamp things up and get you motivated again, and we're going to start showing up, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry.
Yeah. They just had me. I was in a wedding, and I went for a dress fitting, and the lady was closed, and so I had to go next door, and it was a flower shop who was a psychic. And she started talking to me about, and it gave me her card, and I did a regression with her, and it started the whole thing all over again. Everything opened up, and I understood
Wow.
everything. Because I mean, when I was a child, now that I know what it is, I can remember talking to the fairies and being out in nature and just being, at ease with everything until it got distorted. It got distorted when I started being afraid.
Yeah.
I think if I had some sort of guidance or somebody that could explain to me why I was feeling the way I was feeling, I might have been able to stay open, but I didn't have that
Yeah,
in
that's
my
so
family.
important. It's interesting now. I find I have a lot of parents that they ask me questions when they come for a reading, and they ask about that, and I always know right away. It's like about about their kids. It's like, yeah, don't worry, it's normal. I know you're seeing that, but they can, they can stop it. They can ask them to go away, and give them that sense that they're not going crazy, because that is some of the things. It's just, there is a lot of
Mhm.
information out there, but I don't think there's a lot of information for parents who have a lot of kids that are psychic. And there's so many psychic kids out these days. Like it's like this group of kids came into this planet, and they're all like super freaks. I call them, like, I mean, in a
Yeah,
very special way. I don't mean
yeah.
like bad, but I mean, that's my affectionate way of saying they're super highly functional psychics, and they
Hmm.
have all these abilities they just haven't been able to tap into. And a lot of parents don't know how to handle that, or to kind of discuss it with them and say, okay, this is what's going on. Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but a lot of times psychic abilities will skip generations. So your parents may have it, but your grandparents may have it, and it kind of skip a generation. Or let's say you had an older brother. Let's say you're the middle child, and everything will skip a generation. So a lot of people won't have that particular gift in their
Right.
immediately in their
My
family. So
dad's mom was a Cherokee Indian, and he did have the gifts. He just put them in different words, and he didn't want me to be afraid. So he just thought if he told me, oh, it's not there. But yeah, I could see them plain as day, and I could hear them. And so telling me they're not there, that wasn't going to help anything,
that's
you
just
know.
quintessential what
But
parenting is. It's just, oh, don't worry about it. They're not there. Don't worry about it. Just go to bed. Go to bed.
go to bed.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the
Our
worst thing
house is
is,
really haunted.
yeah, can you imagine? The thing is, when you wake up and you see them walking through the house, and that's like, you kind of go, oh, wait a minute, hold on, they're still there.
Hmm.
And usually, I think most times
Well,
nowadays,
they were just little, I think they were residual because how there's different hauntings. I think they were just a residual because they must have done the same thing every night. It was just an old couple, and the stairs would start creaking because my bedroom was upstairs, and I would hear them say, he would say, "Be careful, watch your step. Be careful, watch your step." And he would help her up the stairs, and but it was the same thing over and over. So I think that was a residual, but they would always come to the top of the stairs and move into go to the one of the rooms, because the house was an apartment before we took the whole house over. So yeah, I think that one was just a residual, and there wasn't anything to be afraid of. They were just an elderly couple
yeah, but it'd be so
that just
weird. It'd be
left
like
that
going, okay, who
imprint.
are these people? It's like, what do you, like, hello, come on, guys, go back to the
I
light. You know what I mean?
I know. Well, it's more like an imprint,
Okay.
like I don't think they were actually there. It was an
Yeah.
imprint.
So one of the things I want to talk to you about is, you talk about the Akashic records and stuff like that. When you work with somebody, or when you guide them in a regression therapy, are you kind of like what I would say called linking in with them? So are you seeing the same images that they're seeing? It's like you're watching the same TV station that they're watching as they progress in, so that you can kind of see what's going on. Does that happen with you?
Well, what happens is, like I explained to them too, that you use all your senses. So you either feel it, you either smell it, you see it with your third eye, or you just know it. And so whatever comes to your mind first, that's the truth. And so I do the same thing when I connect in with them. I either just um, I'll guide them to where they need to be, and then I let them. I don't want to give them information. I want them to see it and feel it and sense it themselves. So I may already be getting the knowing, the information, or seeing it, but ask them questions that gets them to where they start seeing it, feeling it, sensing it. And so I do, not always do I see it. I might just know it, or I might sense it, or I might feel it. But by using all of the senses, it brings the timeline together to where you know what's going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am present with them. But
Yeah, because I've always just wondered if you were like, watching the same thing just to make sure that, you can kind of see what's going on and see their emotion and things like that. But I guess you're kind of watching, you kind of got one eye on them anyways, because they're kind of in a relaxed, closed state. So you're kind of watching their facial expressions and see what their body language is, what's happening. But I also thought maybe too, at the same time, you're watching the same, like basically watching the same video, watching the same scene that's happening in their life. And they can look down through it as they're going through it. And so that not necessarily like, tell them what to see, but maybe kind of like, okay, do you see this path that you're kind of on? And they go, oh yeah, that path. And you kind of push them in that little bit direction where you need to go. Like your guides and your peeps are talking to you going, okay, move them over here. Like get them over here.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And they might start to describe something. And the more they describe something, the stronger the connection gets between them and I and their guides, and the easier it gets, So the main goal is to get them to see it and feel it and sense it themselves, so that they know that what they're doing is truth, and they believe it in their heart. What they're doing actually is a healing. Because I believe that if you just tell them about everything and then tell them what they need to do, they aren't feeling that within their heart, and they aren't actually releasing it. They have to feel it and want to let it go and actually understand it, cognize the information, not just because I told them so. So it's like you're in the back seat and you're just holding space, and you can direct them a little bit, but you really want them to get it on their own.
Yeah, of course.
Is it all possible?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, because if you just tell a person, oh, this is what I see, blah, 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 you're kind of robbing the person of that experience, because that's what they came to do, is to have the experience to release that energy around that particular situation so they can move forward. So is a regression, okay, so do you normally go into a person's Akashic record first prior to doing the regression therapy? So you kind of get a background on where they need to go?
I usually, for me, I use cards. I just pull some cards, and we kind of get a direction, get a few hints here or there. And then after we do a little short reading, then we go into the relaxation part of it, and then see what we can find out. And then usually the cards make more sense afterwards than it did before.
Okay, so
when we
yeah,
come back out, the cards make a lot more sense.
Okay. So do you actually, so when you like, okay, so just only trying to get back, just kind of wrap my head around this. So you're pulling the cards to kind of give you an indication of where to go in the past life, correct? Is that correct?
Well, it's more of it's that, and it's a connection to the person, so that they have to trust you and know that they're okay. So that connection, when you're taking a few minutes to chat with them, talk with them, and you pull the cards and you're saying, have you repeated this over and over, because I'm getting that this has happened, and you start to get that energy flowing between the two of you, then they start to relax, and then they're more able to, when they go into the relaxation and go into the regression part of it, they're able to do that. They trust that you're in their best interest. They feel your essence, and they know that it's okay.
Yeah, they kind of feel that, and it's that energetic connection, which is really important. That feeling, even though you may not cognitively think it, but it's that feeling of knowingness, and to feel that energy connection. Do you find that a lot of times before you have a client come over, their peeps are already talking to you already? You're kind of getting a download what needs to be done prior to the session?
Yeah. Every time I will get a download the night before, they'll start talking to me about what needs to be done, or what they need, and how this person is hot. They really need to release something within their heart, but they're not sure if they're ready, and they'll just give me a bunch of information about it. And sometimes I will not even made the appointment yet, and I get a download on one of my clients, and I'll be like, oh, they're going to make an appointment. And they call and they make an appointment. So it's like, so their guides are right on the ball. They're like, okay, this is this. And so then they'll make the appointment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, it's always amazing me, with guides and stuff like that. They know you so much better than you do, and they really get the big picture, and they always kind of show up. And I remember when I was first getting into it, I used to like curse my guides, and oh my God, I was so bad for that. I was such an arrogant prick. I was so bad about that. And they would just know, things would show up in my life that I thought, okay, why would my guides do this? Why? Like, it's like, I always blame, it's like, why did this happen? It was like, oh, those guides, they set me up. And some of it was true. They did set me up, but it was for my higher learning. I look back at it now. But at the time,
what? The only one to blame is you.
Yeah, well, I know that now. Yeah. Yeah, well, of course. Of course, I was totally 100% to blame. I mean, I was just so into my shit. I didn't really see what was going on. I couldn't make any distinction back then. Back in those days, I was just an angry, pissed off individual that had just a lot of emotional pain going on. But I always just find it fascinating how they'll tweak things up. And it's always, I always love the fascination behind the scenes, because so much of what we see and what we do, we think, oh yeah, this is great. But it's like an orchestra of people and guides behind the scenes working with other people to connect other people, to connect other people. And it's like this big orchestration of people communicating and things happening, and everything's fluid and dynamic and changing all the time, because we always have our free will and choice and saying, okay, Mike's going to do this today. And then this is what we're going to get him to do. And he's going to meet this particular person. Then Mike decides, no, he's going to sit on the couch and watch TV all day. Right. And it's like, crap. Okay, let's rewind this and see if we can get this person to connect with that person. And it's always so fascinating. And now I can humbly say that I have a little more respect for my peeps on the other side now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they put up with you.
Well, I've had so many change, and I realized, why they were changing so much, because I was such an ass. And I look back now, and I honestly say I would change too. I was screw this guy in this meat suit. Forget this guy. I fully get it. I'm sure I'm gonna meet him when I cross over the other side. There's gonna be a lineup, and I'll be going, all right, here he is. Let's talk to this kid. Oh Lord, let's get this thing organized.
I think that I believe that they don't have feelings like that. It's all love. And when you meet them on the other side, they're going to be excited to see you. And they're just looking for someone who could best handle the way you are at the time. And so that's probably why they switch them out a lot. That you would, easily be able to listen to or take guidance from, And so for me, my guides, I don't have, like, I know Yeshua and Mary Magdalene are always with me in all the scenes. And all the archangels, I work with all of them, but they'll just, Saint Germain, they just pop in. I just open the channel, and whoever or whatever that person needs, they just pop in. So I don't have, other than, Yeshua, Jesus, he's always with me no matter what.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a given your background. I think it'd be really hard if it was Buddha that showed up, right? I mean, because unless you grew up as a Buddhist, right? Like, there's that connection, but it could have definitely happened. Although
I have channeled Buddha before, it's very happy, very high energy. You smile a lot.
Well, yeah, I believe that, because that's the whole quintessential thing with the Buddha, is always enlightened, smiling. That's the quintessential, that's the target, right? We all want to be smiling and happy all the time, where we're in that bliss and that joy, connecting to that Christ consciousness.
But he's not that much different than Yeshua. He's the same.
It's always the same energy. That's, what I've come to understand, the Christ consciousness, that Christ, okay, so Yeshua was the guy who raised up to the level of a Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness and Buddha consciousness are the same thing. It's just a different, one part of the world says this part of the world says this, but it's the same availability. It's the same thing. It's that higher level of consciousness. And then from there, it just goes into source and back to where we belong. But Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so amazing. And one of the things I'm going to be doing is a little secret there. I'm going to be talking about a podcast I've been wanting to have. I got this gentleman on that's going to come on, and we're going to talk about the missing years of Jesus. Because
Oh, I'm so
yes,
excited. You have to let me know when you do that.
oh yeah, it's really good because I've been doing some research on it, and obviously it is so fascinating because anybody who's Christian who listens to this and kind of figured out there's this big gap in Jesus's history. Like what happened? He was this kid. He did this Sermon on the Mount. He was arguing with his peeps, back in the days, and then he shows up as a grown man. Like what
Mhm.
happened in between there? But it's so fascinating.
Because he traveled the world and learned from he went to the pyramids and Giza and all these different
Yeah. Okay.
India.
Don't spoil it now. Don't spoil it now. Yeah. But there's like all that stuff. I was like, no. But you know what? To be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I had a connection to the master at that particular time because when I started talking about this information, stuff like that, it was almost like I knew this stuff. I even knew it beforehand, like I was there. I don't think I was like a saint, but I think I was part of the entourage that traveled with him. Because like for some, like we're talking about past lives, it just came up to me and I was like, really? That's like, oh, maybe I'm just.
That makes you my family because they tell me that I was part of the family, part of the entourage.
Well, then it
It's
was
pretty
really,
cool.
yeah, it was just because I knew that sort of thing. So it's like, I just knew he was at the pyramids and all this sort of stuff. But anyways, that's for another podcast and
Yeah,
that's
I
coming
just
up.
remembered. It's
Yeah.
like remembering
Yeah.
things when you learn. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
gonna be exciting. You'll have to let me know when that's up. I definitely want to
Yeah, definitely.
listen in.
We're just working on scheduling issues right now, but I got an expert on that subject and he's already been on the podcast. So, but yeah, we're definitely going to do a show on that. So I got some real cool stuff coming up and yeah, I'm just really happy that we had a conversation. I had everybody else on the show, and it's like I got to get Bonnie on the show, and I wanted to make sure I had the content ready for season 2, and it was like a perfect timing to have you on for season 2. And I know it was lots of fun. So, are you guys still doing the Hearts of Collective
Yeah,
Change?
yeah, we still do it, but we don't do it every Monday because we've kind of gotten a little busy, but we still schedule people and still have shows, but it's not every Monday. It's
Yeah,
just whenever they're scheduled. So
yeah. So not every Monday. So you can basically see that on Facebook, stuff like that. Because I remember also David Starr was on there as well. I seen him on there?
Yeah, he's been on there as a guest. But I also do the New Earth Ascending Consciousness, and that's with David Starr and Robin Nicole.
Okay.
And that's where we do a lot of circles. We call them unity circles, where people come on and share their gifts. Kind of what you do too, trying to help people see where people are so they can help more people. Kind of get their
Okay.
names out
Yeah.
there.
I knew you guys did something different, but I wasn't sure on it. But I'm glad you brought that up because it was really important. Because I also had David on the podcast too as well. So, and that was an interesting fellow, and of course he's a fellow Canadian, so I got to have him on. Like, I mean,
Oh yeah.
I got so many, but
for
it's
sure.
interesting, but the bulk of my podcast listeners are my brothers and sisters in the South there in the U.S., which I totally love. And I always love getting, these DMs from people from all over the US. And, I guess somebody from, Florida will DM me, somebody from Georgia, Mississippi. And it's like the deep South are listening to my stuff. And it's like, this is cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I get the typical states. I get like, California, because I've had people from California on. So,
Mhm.
and California, New York, Michigan's not there yet. Almost a little bit. There's a few people listening to Michigan.
Yeah.
But
Well, the three of us are from Michigan, me and Jennifer and Kathleen.
yeah, you're just not too far. I remember having a
Yeah.
conversation with Jennifer where she used to travel to my area, Mississauga, and like she knew all about it. I was like, how do you know about Mississauga?
Wow.
Yeah, and she goes, yeah, I used to travel there all the time. And I was like, you really? She goes, yeah. And it's like, she's like, she's part Canadian. Like, well, we kind of think of, everybody from Michigan anyways, like our brothers just across the, like our neighbors anyway.
Yeah.
So there's so
Yeah,
much time I
absolutely.
spent in my youth, because I had grandparents that lived in Windsor. So we're always in Detroit. And so Detroit all the time. And then also in Port Huron, up in Sarnia area, up that way too as well. So we spent a lot of time. That was always the big road trip, is to head over to Detroit. We hit to hit a Greek town, and it's been so long since I've been to Detroit or even to Windsor in general. So, but yeah, it was a fun time, and yeah, I always enjoyed spending time in Michigan there and the U.S. It's been a while since this whole COVID thing. It's like one of the things. I have a
I
good friend.
know.
So I have a good friend that lives in Colorado, and I'm just like, oh, I got to go see her because I love Colorado. I
Yeah.
love the mountains, anyways. But it just,
Oh, it's so beautiful there.
yeah, it is. It's just nice to just get away, and hopefully all these mandates and things will end and we can get back to our normal lives and just deal with
I
COVID
hope
like it's
so.
the flu. So that's my hope anyways.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to go there. I think the light is shining on brightly with this stuff, and the truth
Oh,
is setting us
absolutely.
free finally.
Yes, absolutely.
So Bonnie, that being said, my dear, we're almost out of time.
Oh, but you know what? I want to let everybody know too that I also have a YouTube, and it's Ignite Quantum Healing. If they want to experience some of the meditations and hypnotherapy and stuff that I do, they can go over there and check it out.
Yeah.
You know?
So, okay. So you definitely have YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff, right?
YouTube, I don't really do Instagram, but I have a Facebook page, and Ignite Quantum Healing is also my my where you go to see what all my work is and
All
all
the
that.
services. Yeah.
But you can find all of it on Facebook, Ignite Quantum Healing. All the information is where you just click on it.
Okay, so I'll have all that information in the description. So whether you're watching this on YouTube, and it'll just scroll down the bottom, I'll have Bonnie's information down there. And you notice I didn't call you Kathleen?
Yeah, you did good. Well, we hang out so much together, it happens.
Yeah, as you guys are like morphing into the same person. It's like when two old people live together, they kind of morphed into each other's energy. So I know if Kathleen's listened to this, she'll just have
the
a
three of us are always
she'll have a good laugh.
chuckle.
She'll have a good laugh. So I'll have Bonnie's information. Let's see. I got this right, guys, because I'm gonna have some comments. This guy can't speak. I was like, yeah. I'll have all Bonnie's information in the description below. So if you're listening to the audio podcast on Spotify, Apple, Anchor FM and Google and everybody else, those crazy places, yeah, I'll have that information in the description. So if you want to check out Bonnie's services and get a regression done, do some channeling work, do all these different amazing things that you do, you're just spreading light and love out there. I really appreciate you being on the show today and spreading that message out there. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It was lots of fun.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close off the podcast here. This has been the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me, and goodbye for now.
Bye.